Good morning, members, and welcome to this meeting of the Police, Fire and Rescue Subcommittee. Particular warm welcome to Area Commander Andy Kenna, the new Scottish Fire and Rescue local senior officer for Dumfries and Galloway. This meeting is being live streamed and recorded and will be made available for viewing through our Council's website. Can I remind members to follow the good practice guidance, which includes muting microphones and switching off their video when they are not addressing the meeting. Those of you attending virtually who wish to contribute to any item, you should write speak in the Teams chat function and you'll be invited to speak in order about new issues. Should your question or issue have been raised by a previous speaker, please withdraw your request so that we can deal with the business as efficiently as possible. The usual standing orders apply, including that any votes will be undertaken by roll call. If any member has to leave the meeting for any reason, can I remind you to either leave the Teams meeting or for that period of time, or you could write leave in the Teams chat function and then join. This is required to allow us to record members' presence, and please do not use the chat function for any contributions that are material to the debates. We have a couple of important reports to consider today, and I anticipate we will deal with the business in our usual efficient manner. Okay. Sediment and apologies. Fraser.
Thank you, Chair. So in addition to yourself, we've got Councillors Dorward, Beretti and Stitt here in the hall with us, and on Teams we've got Councillors Bell, Blake, Campbell, Jimison and McFarlane, and apologies from Councillor Carruthers and Councillor Hill.
And I approve members' remote participation. Declarations of interest, members. None that I can see coming up on the screen and none present in the hall. Minutes of the previous meeting on 10th of June 22. Can we note the minutes of the meeting held on 10th of June 22? Happy to note. Very good. Item 4, Police Scotland, Dumfries and Galloway Local Plan, 6-month performance update, 1st of April 22 to 30th September 22. Report by Head of Governance and Assurance. Chief Superintendent Carol Maguire is here to assist members if you have any questions. Have you anything to add, Carol, before opening it up to questions?
No, nothing to add to the report, but obviously happy to answer questions.
Answer any questions? Right, we'll open it up to members. Any questions for the Chief Superintendent? Councillor Stitt.
Morning, Carol. Thanks, Chair. I know it's not in the report, Carol, but since September, I think there's been a spate accidents in the A711, Tollbar Strait. I noticed the council now have put up 50 mile per signs. I believe some of it might be due to speeding, but I know that somebody went off the road and they're only doing 40 mile an hour. I don't know if you've been in touch with the council to see if there's concerns about the state of the road or whether it's a camber, it's causing problems. I don't know if you've been updated in anything.
I don't have the information on that specific stretch of road, but I can speak to our roads policing inspector and get back to you off table with that, if that's okay.
Very good. Any other members go ahead? Tony?
Thank you, Chair. On a similar line, Carol, that recent accident that we had on the 75 and it is a road which I use frequently to get to Dumfries. Have you got any update on that? And is it, was it due to road conditions, speed, any idea?
What particular accident?
Dare I mention chickens going over? In a truck?
There's a male being reported to the Procurator Fiscal for that one.
Sorry?
There's a male driver being reported to the Procurator Fiscal for that one.
Also another question. I noticed, I've just get the page 21, Chair. Fraud. I think we've, on numerous occasions when I've asked constabulary about this over the period, I noticed that there's a linear progression upwards from 2017 and the average is now 246, but how accurate is that, and is there the possibility that a lot of this type of fraud, and I'm assuming it's more telephone and digital fraud, is not being reported?
You're absolutely right. The majority of this type of fraud is in the cyberspace and either online or by phone. There's always the chance that there are things that are not reported, but as to what scale that is, I can't assess that. We can only base it on what gets reported to us.
What's the most serious case that you've had to deal with in terms of financial loss?
I don't have the exact figures again. I can get back to you on what the exact is, but it's tens of thousands of pounds.
Vice Chair Lynn, have you got a question?
Thank you, Chair. Chief Superintendent, thank you for the report. Page 11, the evidence is, I'll let you get to the page first, sorry. It's in the narrative. I was scrolling through bits of paper. There's been an increase in recorded rape against all measures, and analysis shows the majority of these, 29, relate to female victims aged 16 and over. And in the table, again, having to scroll through, in the appendix, page 5, the comparison with 2017-18 to today has gone from 17 to 47. Would you be able to give an overview of causative increase? I think that might be due to better reporting in some ways and easier access, but it'd be useful to hear your perspective on that. Thank you.
Yes, we've got two-thirds of the reports this year are what we would call historic offences. So I'm confident that that's down to improved service that we can provide, improved reporting mechanisms. We've obviously got dedicated officers that deal with this type of inquiry, and we do obviously try and promote the work as best as we can. So the majority of that is historic, which is positive, but obviously any one of these is too many, and we'll continue to do that preventative and enforcement work.
Thank you for that. I think it's particularly important to raise that over the current period of the 16 days of action and in terms of violence against women. So thanks for your response. Appreciated.
Councillor Blake. Ian?
Yeah, thank you. Chief Superintendent Maguire commented that she was going to get back to Councillor Stitt on the A711. If it's not going to all members, would you mind copying me into it as well? It's on my ward, and there certainly has been a spate of accidents, especially over the last 2 or 3 weeks. Thank you.
Absolutely, will do.
Councillor Jameson.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. My query, well, first of all, I think what the police are doing is quite remarkable. That there's a great deal of effort across the board, and I know there's limited resources, so that's fantastic. But what's not mentioned in this report really is antisocial behaviour, and in Annandale South, Annan and Eastriggs, there's been several issues of young folk. I don't think they're criminals or anything like that, but it's upsetting to the local community. I'm just wondering, the other comment I would make is the community police have been very good at coming to our community councils, and I think that they're very important to the role in terms of being proactive. Could you just describe some of the proactive work you may be doing with other members of the community, the social sector, the youth workers and things like that? And is there anything that the council could do to actually support the police in trying to reduce youth basically causing a nuisance, and how we can help you reduce that? It may not be a lot in numbers, but to the folk that are infected, it's quite upsetting, and obviously there's a case to be made for trying to help these young folk rather than just punishing them.
Yeah, our community policing teams will work alongside voluntary sector, council support. We are youth engagement officers in every school that work very closely with education and try and build those relationships through school age to try and do that diversion, improve the relationships, improve understanding of impact. Because as you say, a lot of the time the they're not doing anything criminally wrong, but perhaps it's just understanding that impact. And for me, it's just looking at as much diversionary options that we can put in place and that we can support to allow the young people a focus out with their school would be a priority, and I suppose a request for me if that was possible.
Thank you.
Ian, I see your hand still up. Are you wanting back in?
Sorry, my mistake, Chair. I'll take it in.
No problem. Any other questions from members? Can't see any on the screen, and I can't see any in the room. Okay. That being the case, move on to the recommendation. Are we satisfied that we've scrutinised the police performance report from 1st April 22 to 30th September 22? Yep. Noted. Yep, thank you. Takes us on to item 5, Scottish Fire and Rescue Service, Dumfries and Galloway Local Plan 6-month performance report, 1st April 22, 30 September 22, report by Head of Governance and Assurance, and Area Commander Andy Kenna is here to assist members if they have any questions. And do you want to say anything prior to opening it up to questions?
Yes, Chair, thank you. And many thanks for your warm welcome earlier on with the introductions. I'm pleased and delighted to report another positive report to the committee for the first half of this reporting period. It demonstrates the excellent partnership working arrangements to keep our community safe in Dumfries and Galloway. Can also take this opportunity to thank all operational and support staff and also the many partners who have made a significant contribution in keeping our community safe. These include, but are not limited to, Police Scotland, Dumfries and Galloway Council, Dumfries and Galloway Community Wardens, Scottish Ambulance Service, Housing Services, Education, Dumfries and Galloway Voluntary Sector, Community and Youth Hubs, and many, many more. In addition to the covering report, I would like to add further comment on the unwanted fire alarm signals statement on the covering report on page 37 of the booklet, where I have mentioned that the interim procedure will remain in place post-pandemic until outcomes of the UFAS demand reduction public consultations are implemented in Q1 in 2023. As an organisation, we are currently reviewing our initial UFAS implementation date of April 2023. The UFAS implementation is interdependent with other projects, therefore we want to ensure these are all aligned. It is our intention to organise an online duty holder engagement event, the date of which is not yet finalised, but will be planned approximately 6 months ahead of implementation date. We will communicate the revised implementation date to stakeholders directly, as well as provide information via our website and social media platforms. Moving on from the report itself, where I'll be happy to answer any questions from the committee, I feel it's only right and appropriate that I give the committee an update on the current challenges which the organisation faces at this present time and is not captured in the main report. So, I'd like to give the committee an update on the resource spending review. There is no doubt that the indicative figures in the Scottish Government's resource spending review suggest that the next few years will be difficult for public sector bodies, and the Scottish Fire and Rescue Service is no exception to this. Our resource budget remains at £294.2 million per year, and the capital funding is at £32.5 million per year until 2025-26. If these figures are reflected in future budget allocations, we will face stark challenges and will have to make difficult decisions as an organisation moving forward, as it is clear that we would have to reduce costs significantly. The spending review announced in May indicated that we will be allocated a flash cash resource allocation for the next 4 years. Once the impact of inflation is included, this would represent a reduction in real terms. Whilst we are currently unable to put an exact figure on the savings required, our modelling indicates that this may be in the order of between £29 and £43 million by the end of the 4-year period. Next year, our modelling indicates we would have to require to save between 12 and 18 million if we receive a flat cash settlement. We await the outcome of a budget announcement expected on the 15th of December by the Scottish Government, which will confirm our budget for 2023-24. We are currently exploring all potential opportunities to reduce costs and deliver our services more efficiently. We would be unable to make the levels of savings indicated by the resource spending review without impacting upon our current service delivery model. However, our priority will continue to be the delivery of frontline services and positive outcomes for the communities we serve, whilst keeping our firefighters and staff safe. Appropriate engagement and consultation with our staff, communities and partners will be undertaken to inform our decision making going forward. And the next topic I'd like to give the committee an overview on is the potential for industrial action for the organisation. The Fire Brigades Union are moving forward with a second ballot for strike action. This will run from the 5th of December, which is next Monday, to the 23rd of January 2023. Given the second ballot end date of the 23rd of January 2023, it is estimated the earliest industrial action could take place would be the 6th or the 7th of February. We recognise and fully appreciate that any decision by our staff to take industrial action is a personal choice, and we would never seek to influence the outcome of any ballot. However, as a national emergency service, we have a legal and moral responsibility to protect the communities of Scotland and must plan accordingly to keep people safe and protect life. We also have a duty to support those staff who are not taking industrial action as well. We are currently developing a series of contingency arrangements to mitigate the impact of any action and ensure we provide an emergency response. In addition, we want to ensure our staff are aware of the impact of participating in industrial action in relation to contractual terms, pay and pension contributions and current Scottish Fire and Rescue Service policies. That's the end of the update, Chair, and I'm happy to take any questions from the committee.
Thank you, and Mayor, thank you for such a very candid update of the position that we find ourselves in currently, both from the possibility of industrial action as well as budget considerations. On the budget, do you envisage at any stage, will we lose any rural fire stations as a result of these potential budget restraints?
Chair, what I can say just now is any changes whatsoever in relation to duty patterns of the shift systems or any sort of station closures would be in full consultation again with our staff, with our partners. So again, it would be fully informed kind of consultation that obviously what will happen before any decision like that is taken.
Thank you. Now I'll open it up to members. Councillor Stitt.
Thanks, Chair. Welcome, Andy. Just to follow on what Ian's saying about maybe closures, I'm a bit concerned when you see the figures for retained duty systems. I'll come from Dalbeattie. It's been a bugbear of mine for the last 5 years. They seem to be struggling to get staff. I think they had an open day last year. The figures are showing 52.4%. The highest is 67.81%. The problem I find with that is it's hard to get staff there because I believe Dalbeattie can reach Southerness quicker as Dumfries can. And I think with them figures, it seems to be getting worse year by year. I just know if there's been any success in employing more people.
Thanks for your question, Councillor. We are trying very, very hard to actually attract and recruit people into the on-call stations. And we're continually trying to recruit people into, obviously, the stations we were seeing there is gaps there. As part of my report, I have mentioned about the changes in individuals' primary contracts and things like that as well, that makes it even more difficult for obviously staff to be available during the day out with their primary employment. We've also introduced as well the pre-recruitment engagement programme. We were seeing a lot of success just now as well, and that's bringing in potential candidates into the station and give them a feel for the station before they actually do that commitment of, yeah, I want to join the Scottish Fire and Rescue Service. And we're finding that approach is very, very encouraging, and we are getting staff coming through with that. On top of that, we're tying in any community safety engagement events that we're doing within the local communities. We're tying in recruitment as well, again, just to try to encourage recruitment. But it is a challenge for us just now, just to try to get, obviously, the right staff in post.
Thanks for that, Andy. Cheers. Thank you.
Very good. George, I see your hand up.
Yeah, thanks. I'm referring to page 36, 3.8, deliberate fire setting. First and foremost, a pat on the back for your work and engagement with other partners. I think that's really exceptional. The work you're doing in primary schools, absolutely spot on. Really support that. And also your work in Stranraer with the Youth Volunteer Service. Again, that's a great initiative. I commend you very highly. A couple of questions, and it's not a but wondering if you could have some engagement with the secondary schools, because a lot of the antisocial behaviour and a little bit of fire setting could be associated with teenagers getting to that age where they can get initiative. And secondly, is there any relevance in identifying hotspots? I'm looking at the table on page 41 where we've got the table with deliberate fire setting. It seems to be quite high in Annandale, northwest Dumfries and Stranraer, and generalising, these are typically probably poorer areas, maybe more urban. Is there an opportunity to try and identify more specifically where the key problems are?
Councillor, if you don't mind, I'm going to ask my counterpart here, who's Group Commander Tommy Kay, who's responsible for prevention and protection. And we've been new in post for just about 2 months. Tommy's got a bit of background knowledge of the area and the good partnership working that's been carried out in the last previous 6 months. So I'll pass you over to Tommy.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, Committee. In terms of all the work that goes on in terms of secondary kids, we do a specific input at Operation Safety, which recently has provided input to 1,300 children, obviously at the primary 6, primary 7 age. We also go and target secondary schools leading up to bonfire and at other key points of the year. We provide key messages through Education's GLOW system prior to summer holidays, prior to Easter breaks and things like that, so that we can try and reduce the impact on the service. We also work with partners like Police Scotland, and known hotspot areas get added to routes that the police officers are going round. We work with local businesses again and try and target known hotspot areas, so that if there's like skips being left, if there's refuse being left in bins, that we can try and get that removed prior to known hotspot areas. And I hope that answers the first bit of in terms of education. In terms of in terms of hotspots, so we will monitor performance on a daily basis. We will then monitor it on a weekly basis. We then scrutinise our own performance on a monthly basis, and we deploy our community action team, our enforcement team to hotspots. We look for common trend analysis, and we make sure that we deploy the appropriate resources to try and impact positively and reduce the impact of secondary fires within those communities, because we understand the impact that they can have, especially causing a level of uncertainty to people and a bit of uncertainty regarding people's safety, and we try and do that reassurance piece. But in addition to that, we also make sure we're doing home fire safety visits. We do, if there has been fires in those areas, we do post-domestic incident response, which is a targeted approach to try and improve the safety of the people within those communities. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, thank you. That's excellent. Really good.
Tony?
Thank you, Chair. It's actually in light of the previous two questions that have been asked by the councillors. and what Andy has said about the finances going forward. The two biggest impacts, it seems, in the Dumfries and Galloway region is in fact the deliberate fire setting, which has just been mentioned, and Councillor Stitt with the unwanted fire alarms. Is it something that the agency or the service needs to engage in other actors to assist in getting the message across that these kind of events are costing the fire service untold sums of money, which would be great if we could reduce those. We would be seeing those savings. Thank you, Chair.
I think looking at the two KPIs that the councillor mentioned there, so unwanted fire alarm signals, as I said with my update, we have saw an increase in that type of activity. We have done that consultation. We are going to be implementing a new model. That is going to be delayed, but with the introduction of that new kind of delivery model, we are expecting to see up to 57% reduction in UFAS activity, which would be welcomed, because as the councillor mentioned, it does then free up that additional time for community safety engagement or for the training of our personnel to keep them safe as well. So we're waiting for that implementation of that. Furthermore, as my colleague spoke about, we do on a daily and weekly basis, we do that kind of instant activity monitoring to try to identify very, very quickly where we see a pattern trend of a specific business. And early engagement with the duty holder is key in my view. So again, in the back of that, with that early engagement, and if we don't get any successes with that, then we also then work with our fire safety enforcement, who can then potentially take it down that kind of enforcement route. But the first thing for me would be that engagement with the duty holder. That's key. And the supervisory officers in the station, they do carry that out. They engage and they try to understand the causations of these activations and provide the appropriate advice to the duty holders to prevent any reoccurrence. So we're very, very proactive with it. In relation to the secondary fires, again, we work very, very closely with a vast number of partners, whether that's our colleagues in Police Scotland, whether that's obviously the community wardens and things like that as well. And we've had really, really good successes. We're working with partners. So with the convent fire that we spoke about just this week, we've identified that a 19-year-old has been charged with that incident. The impact that incident had in the community was quite a excessive impact. The incident itself, you're talking lasted for close to 42 hours, an impact that's got on the communities, and not only just the communities but the services as well who's attending that, and that's for ourselves, for Police Scotland, the local authority, with building control, with the roads department and everything else. So there's a significant impact. But again, we are working to, where the engagement doesn't work, we'll also use that enforcement route as well, and that's been proven with the charging of a 19-year-old. Furthermore, we've identified a couple of youths down in is it Landside area? Lockside area as well, for again that type of antisocial behaviour of the deliberate fire setting of wheelie bins. So we are being proactive with the engagement side, but also where that's not working, we're also tying in with Police Scotland and doing that kind of criminality work as well and supporting them.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. No, that's an excellent. Nice to know that something is obviously happening. I have a further question, if it's okay. In relation to something that Councillor Stitt said, and it's about the employee profile in the Nith Dalbeattie area, where they're struggling to get retained service crews. Currently, it says on page 50, if my eyes can tell me, employee profile 89%, 11%, which is not very far away from an average that we saw the other day. What caught me was the primary employment. Now, from experience living in Newton Stewart, every single fireman in the Newton Stewart Brigade was employed, and there was no one who was unemployed. And I'm just wondering, is it something in the makeup of the legislation around employment that is stopping you able to recruit people that in fact aren't in primary employment?
I don't think it's that. I think when you look at the model itself and the commitment which is expected from obviously potential employees, you're looking at, we've got 3 types of contracts that are available. You've got a 50% contract, which is 60 hours. You've got a 75% contract, which is 80 hours, and also a 100% contract, which is 120 hours, that these individuals have got to commit to the fire and rescue service. And moving forward, I would like to see, and there is work ongoing to try to change the terms and conditions to allow a more flexible approach. But just now, we haven't managed at this time to actually bring those terms and conditions as a Scottish Fire and Rescue Service together to allow us to do that flexible kind of approach to try to target individuals that can possibly give us a more restricted daytime cover when we really need it. So there's work ongoing with that.
Just going on what Tony's saying, I take it you're not aware of any person being restricted due to their benefits being affected should they become a retained fire service. It's not going to affect their benefits as such, that none that you're aware of on that basis.
I'm not aware of that, Chair, but I can certainly, I don't know the full ins and outs of social security benefits and how that impacts with the remuneration that we taking up on call, but I can certainly have a look at that and I can back to the councillor on that.
Very good, thank you, Anna.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I think you voiced what I was thinking, but yes, I would like to hear more about that. Thank you, Chair.
I can't see anyone else. Oh, sorry, Vice Chair.
Thank you, Chair. I'll have to get a bigger hand. Thank you, C. Kenna, for the report. And it's just to try and encompass what Councillor Beretti, Councillor Stitt have mentioned about the RDS service. It's what you've said. You know, the RDS service is much more common. I'm stating the obvious here, but for some people who don't, in areas with high degrees of rurality, and that's how we operate fire response service. And what's concerning, and it's not a complaint, it's just concerning, is that the overall rate here is 87.32% in terms of now I'll try and give you the page there. Page 37 and 38 in terms of the levels of staff. And one of the things that you've said in the report is the 1-2-3 paragraph on page 38 is that one person's availability can be the difference of an appliance being available 100% during the daytime or not being available at all. So even if you have 87.32% in terms of resourcing, that doesn't predicate you're going to have every resource filled to 100%, you know, in terms of that. So I think the challenge there, and it's for comment, it's not criticism, just an observation, is the fact you've mentioned about T's and C's being more flexible for people, because I think the challenge you have going forward, if you don't have one person available, you can't then operate a tender, whatever the level of that is. Say it's 4 and you only have 3, I take it you can't send a tender out because for health and safety reasons. So that must be a tremendous challenge for down here in terms of the rural area that we cover to try and fill these posts. So again, comments. I think what you said about flexibility of T's and C's is a really good point and really important in terms of taking this forward, because it doesn't seem, from what Councillor Stitt has said, that historically these levels have increased that much over the past few years. Thanks.
Well, just to clarify, we do have to have a minimum of 4 riders on the fire appliances. And again, they've got to have specific skills as well. So you've got to have that driving qualification. You've got to have the qualification to be that instant commander, and you've got to be competent BA wearers as well at times. So, as I said, one person can make a difference. What we've done in the area so far is, over the last number of years, we've actually employed 4 rural whole-time watch commanders, and they're very, very, very flexible. So that's one post per district. And they can move about districts where we can see obviously where there is a bit of deficiency and put them into that station for that daytime cover. I think moving forward, and I think it'd be good to also confirm the kind of, on the basis of try to attract more people in there, we've also just put a migration pilot programme in place as well. So we're migrating the on-call staff into whole time, and we've managed to migrate 4 on-call staff into the whole time, and that's very, very attractive as well for these individuals within the communities, where if they join the on-call and there's a commitment there and they demonstrate that over a period of time and they become competent in role, there's a real attraction there. So I'm really positive that we can make a difference to these availability figures. But it is a challenge, and you can reflect that with average figures across Scotland as well, where if you compare that average against the Scottish availability, we are performing really well in Dumfries and Galloway.
Very good. Any other questions from members before we go on to the recommendations? I can't see any appearing, so I take it we're happy to say that we've scrutinised the performance from the Fire and Rescue Service for the period in question. We're happy to? Yeah. Thank you. Item 6, any other business deemed urgent by the Chair in need of a decision. I have not been notified of any urgent business. So that takes us on to the date of next meeting, which is 2 p.m. on Thursday, 15th June 2023, an afternoon meeting for us. Thank you, members, and thank you all for coming.